On October 19th of 2021, a German speedrunner by the name of Dessa beat Digimon World 3 in just 6 hours, 27 minutes, and 34 seconds, which is the fastest the game has ever been completed in a real-time setting. This was the result of a 5-week grind where Dessa was constantly doing attempts, logging nearly 100 hours of runs over the course of that time period. Normally, a grind like this would mean that a game is highly optimized, with only a little time left to squeeze out of it, but Digimon World 3 does not have this problem. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Compared to top times achieved in the early days of speedrunning, Digimon World 3 has seen a lot of improvement, but thanks to the absurd amount of luck it takes to even complete a run, it's hard to say if the game is truly optimized. Runners can't even pin down which Digimon starter can get the best time due to so much being outside of their control. Today, I want to dive into how Dessa and other runners take on this game, the RNG nightmare they have to deal with, how most runs are dead on arrival, and why the best Digimon for speedruns is still up in the air. Before we dive into that, let me talk about today's sponsor, Helix Sleep. Whether I need to focus at work or when I'm researching these videos, it's essential that I get the best sleep possible. It's especially important since it's already fall and I'm trying to keep my immune system good for the cold and flu season. There's a bunch of cool beds to match your needs and great financing options to get you started. Using the Helix Sleep Quiz, I was able to narrow down the exact type of bed I needed, giving me the Helix Dusk Luxe with a semi-firm profile and a Glaciotex cooling cover. Helix also delivers your mattress with free shipping in the US. It comes all rolled up in a box and you can get it set up easily in minutes. My fiance and I were setting up this mattress when we realized there were actual handles on the sides of the bed, making it super easy to put on our bed frame, which was amazing. Now, when it comes to the actual bed, it's awesome. I usually toss and turn throughout the night. Whether I was too hot or uncomfortable, my old mattress just wasn't cutting it. But starting from the first night I've slept on my new Helix Sleep mattress, I felt energized and amazing in the mornings. If you're still not convinced, there's a 100-night sleep trial to try out your mattress, and if you need to exchange or return your new Helix mattress, they've got you covered with their guarantee. Thanks so much again to Helix Sleep for sponsoring this video. Their bed has been absolutely life-changing for me, and I honestly love it. Now, if you could do me a favor, then please go to helixsleep.com/Dr. Swellman or click the link in the description to get 20% off site-wide with the fall savings event that's happening now. Digimon World 3 starts off by giving the player 3 starter packs before going into Digimon Online, and these are the Balanced, Maniac, and Powerful packs. The Balanced pack has Kodomon, Renamon, and Patamon. The Maniac pack has Kumamon, Guilmon, and Patamon, and the Powerful pack has Renamon, Monmon, and Agumon. Runs focus on the growth of a single Digimon, since the only Digimon active in fights gets experience. In order to get through the game fast, the Digimon of choice needs to have good stats and a moveset that lets them take down enemies fast. Renamon and Patamon are not even considered for speedruns, since Patamon is more of a support Digimon, and Renamon doesn't get any offensive gear at the beginning of the game. Agumon does have decent offensive capabilities and was the main choice in very early runs, but his lack of speed and slow EXP growth make him not viable. Kumamon also has good stats, but has slow leveling in the early game and doesn't have access to two-handed swords for the mid-game. Monmon is the first of the Digimon that are considered good. He has a very fast EXP curve for the early game, great defense stat growth, and the highest starting speed in the game. But when it comes to offense, he falls just short of one-shotting many enemies. He also has a risky stat roll type for speed on level up, meaning it's a crapshoot if your speed scales enough to continue the run. Finally, we have the 2 Digimon that are top tier, with each having their own quirk they bring to the run. Kodomon has above average starting stats and good growth for his strength stat, but his speed leaves a little bit to be desired, starting at 33 for the base stat and having low growth potential. However, there's mechanics such as stat training that help overcome this hurdle, and if you get lucky, these dice rolls can help Kodomon reach his true potential with his evolutions, Dino-Humon and Kyukimon. Dino-Humon has a solid set of moves with Heat Cutter and Frost Cutter, and Kyukimon has the ridiculously broken Blade Twister, hitting an enemy up to 3 times for massive damage. Guilmon is the last viable starter, and has amazing strength and speed to start out with. However, he's considered to be a glass cannon as his HP and defensive stats are not great at all. His evolution into Growlmon is good for the early game, but he quickly gets access to Metal Mamemon, a powerful Digimon that has metal element coverage on some abilities. The goal and route of Digimon World 3 is a bit complicated, but can be summed up into several plot points. You have to beat all the game's leaders and earn their badges, stop the AOA terrorist organization from taking over the Asuka server, and save the Amaterasu server by taking out the 4 AOA chiefs, then finally save the world from Lord Megadeath and Galacticmon. Sounds simple enough, until you realize there's a ton of bosses to fight and backtracking needed to reach these main story points. Older RPGs like these usually have glitches and exploits to skip parts of the story, and this is somewhat true for Digimon World 3. There are glitches that let you get out of bounds from traversable areas, and these let you reach different cities much earlier than intended. However, when trying to progress the story out of order by talking to a quest NPC, the game doesn't let you, and it simply locks up. Progression checks are basically everywhere in this game, and this has prevented any huge sequence break in Digimon World 3. This game also doesn't have RNG manipulation to influence any luck-based outcomes. There's a ton of dice rolls that happen which will decide the fate of any run, and there's nothing people can do if the game doesn't cooperate that day. With that out of the way, let's finally dive into this run. At the start of the game, just after buying healing items and equipment from Asuka City, runners are looking to grind out a level or two before hitting the first major reset point of the game. In any speedrun of Digimon World 3, stat training is required if you want any chance at beating the game. By using training points that you acquire upon leveling up, you have a chance to increase the stat you choose up to 3 times. If you get 3 successes in a row, you get a bonus 4th chance on regular training. This is different for legendary training, but modern runs only do regular training. One of the most important stats is speed, which influences your chance to run away, turn order, attack hit rate, and likelihood of stealing items. Turn order in Digimon World 3 is unique in the way that it's not as simple as someone going first and second in a fight. A mechanic called turn delay drives how actions are performed in fights, and is tied to each of those events. This means that if your speed is low enough compared to the enemy speed, and their action delay is low enough, the enemy can get 2 turns in a row. This works the opposite way as well, allowing you to get multiple turns if your delay value is in the right spot. This is important since the Seiryu leader has Apemon clocking at a whopping 225 speed, and if he double turns you, it leaves you in a bad spot for that fight. Kodomon starts out with lower speed than Guilmon and has slower speed growth, so you have to get points in that stat if you want to have a chance with him. For Guilmon, since he has decent speed growth and you need to one-shot random encounters quickly, Spirit is the way to go. This directly affects magic ability damage, allowing his Pyrosphere attack to carry him in the very early game. Outside of this, there's a major focus on speed and strength in the later game, ensuring that runners don't get outscaled by various bosses. The problem with this is that there's a 25% chance to fail in individual training, and the early game has a ton of stat checks. If you don't get over 100 speed in the first training on Kodomon, or at least 3 out of 3 for Guilmon on Spirit, you're not set up well for the upcoming fights, and this would be a reset for top runners.
Come on game, please. I need the training. Oh, terrible stats, but please training.
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it!
If runners manage to get past the training requirements, they make their way to Seiryu City to start going through the game's event triggers. In order to fight the Seiryu leader, you have to go into the city, talk to Tom in the Seiryu Tower, then go east to Protocol Ruins and find the leader, only for him to tell you that you need to fight a boss named Master Tyrannomon to prove your strength, and after that is when you're able to challenge the leader. The game is filled with ridiculous event triggers like this, and it only gets worse from here. Both routes are looking to hit level 5 around Protocol Ruins, which gives their first Digivolutions and abilities to go along with them. Encounters can vary across each run, but because you want all the experience you can get, you'll want to defeat every encounter possible. The only exception is when you're backtracking through early areas later on, when that experience no longer matters. Master Tyrannomon is the first main boss, and you probably remember needing to grind a ton before you could even think about beating him. This is exactly what runners do to beat this boss early, but they're not exactly grinding for experience. They're grinding this thing. When you take damage, the blast gauge fills a little. Once it's full, you blast Digivolve, turning into the next level form for 3 turns. This increases your stats immensely and lets you access a powerful move from the Digimon. The Kodomon route blast digivolves into Kyukimon, who has that blade twister I mentioned earlier. The Guilmon route blast digivolves into War Growlmon, giving you access to Atomic Blaster and effectively two-shotting the boss. This doesn't mean your win is assured, since Master Tyrannomon can get a critical hit, dealing around double damage and KOing your Digimon before blasting. During the blast gauge grind, runners also farm the Triceramon enemies here for a chance at a TNT ball drop, another reset point in the run. The TNT ball is a consumable item that can deal damage to an enemy, but it's also required for story progression about 2 hours in. This item only drops from Triceramon at an 18.75% chance, which isn't that bad, but given how long it takes to complete each fight, grinding this drop can waste a lot of time. This isn't the only place runners can get the drop, since Triceramon show up in Plug Cape and in a boss fight or two. Getting through Master Tyrannomon means you can challenge the Seiryu leader, and while blasting is a good strategy here, there's another exploit runners can take advantage of. There's a slew of temporary stat increasing consumables that you can use, such as Power Plug, Guard Plug, and Mach Plug, which normally increase the stats for a couple turns. However, if you die while a stat increase is active and before it goes away, you keep the stat increases when you revive, with the game no longer knowing to take that boost away. This is used to help beat bosses throughout the entire game, and is sometimes faster than blasting. Kodomon's route can do just that, but Guilmon has to blast to beat Apemon without getting destroyed. Next up is the hunt for the blue card, which lets you access the tram at East Station. This starts yet another massive backtracking section in the early game. It begins by going back to Asuka City from the station, fighting a tamer by the name of Keith at the gate, and talking to the Guilmon in town. This Guilmon says his cousin has the blue card, so you have to go to the Forest Inn where that Guilmon says there's another one that has it in Seiryu City, and once you go there and talk to him to get the card, it's back to the station. But it turns out the card is a fake, so you have to go back to Seiryu City to ask the Guilmon about the card, but he says the guy who gave it to you left and is hiding somewhere. Normally you'd need to talk to someone else to find out this location, but we already know that the final Guilmon is in the Forest Inn basement. After all that backtracking, you finally get the real blue card and can go back to East Station. The boss before reaching the South Sector is Bulbmon, and like the other early bosses, both routes will try to get their blast digivolve and finish the fight soon after. Again, a huge concern here is the boss getting a critical hit and wasting time, so runners have to be prepared to revive their allies as needed. In the South Sector, the goal is to reach Suzaku City and fight the Suzaku leader, but in the way at the Jungle Grave is a Zambanmon, who prevents you from passing through. This starts a side quest called Sepikmon's Mask, where you have to find his mask before he tells you how to beat Zambanmon. This backtrack has you going back to Protocol Ruins to talk with Baronmon, then he sends you to Asuka Bridge where Sepikmon appears to have his mask back but doesn't want to tell you how to beat Zambanmon. You end up talking to an Edamon that says Sepikmon went to Divermon's Lake, but when you get there, it's just a guy named Nick who found the mask but had it stolen by Edamon. So it's back to Asuka City to confront Edamon, and after following him to the sewers, he finally gives up the mask. Thankfully, this backtracking isn't all bad, because this is a good time for runners to visit the auction. When you reach 210 total charisma from putting on equipment for your party members, you get access to El Dorado and you can enter the underground auctions. You can win the auctions and get amazing items for cheap, selling them for 4 or 5 times their purchase price. This is amazing for getting powerful offensive and defensive gear, plus restocking on all the items used earlier. On top of all this backtracking, the encounter RNG really starts to show up in this section, creating gaps of minutes or more across different runs, with almost no way for runners to mitigate that time loss. After Sepikmon gets his mask back, runners can get past Zambanmon and reach Suzaku City. The Suzaku leader fight isn't that bad until you get to her last Digimon, Shogun Gekomon, and he comes packing Confuse Gas, which has a chance to confuse your Digimon. Confusion is very annoying in this game, switching up your moves with random actions that may not do anything. It also makes the music absolutely goofy.
Oh, awesome!
Do they really have the entire...
I'll lose so much time, dude.
Like, what a wild song. This can waste a ton of time, and it's easy to get stun locked on this fight if you're unlucky. Shogun Gekkomon's AI will pick Confuse Gas 100% of the time if you're 80 HP or over, and if you're below that threshold, then Shogun Gekkomon will have a 60% chance to regular attack and a 40% chance to use Confuse Gas. As for strats, it's all about setting up those stat boosts and going all out with abilities on Kodomon, and for Guilmon it's the same way, especially since Growlmon comes with double power, reducing the need for power plugs to be used. It's also around this point that Growlmon reaches level 20, which is the requirement for the Metal Mamemon Digivolution. This Digimon is insanely powerful in the mid-game, getting abilities with the metal element, which is good against most of the enemies at this point. Once the Suzaku leader is done, it's time for the Digi-egg of Sincerity. The game sends you back to Asuka City, and you have to sneak into the master room of the admin center before being told to hunt down Lucky Mouse somewhere in the west sector. In order to get there, you need Submarimon to cross the ocean between the sectors. You get access to this from the Digi-egg of Sincerity, and someone at Phoenix Bay tells you about the shrine in Bios Swamp, but the shrine the egg is located at doesn't have a way in, so Sepikmon tells you to blast it wide open. This is why runners needed the TNT ball earlier, because Baronmon back at Protocol Ruins turns it into a TNT chip, which opens up the shrine. Dessa's run had to grind for this during the Sepikmon mask quest, but H.Dot's former Guilmon record got the drop during the Keith fight. After getting Submarimon, the boss fights going from here on start to scale ridiculously when it comes to damage requirements, and with it being really slow to blast Digivolve in every fight to keep up, runners need a different way to handle this. The solution is an item called the Counter Crest. When equipped on the NTSCU version of the game, it has a 100% chance to counter a physical attack with the exact same damage received. This counter can also be enhanced with elemental damage, and more importantly, it can crit. This is an insane item that carries runners through the rest of the game, but the grind to get the item is the single biggest reset point in the run. The only way to get this item is through a random drop from a Tuskmon at a 6.25% chance. This grind completely sucks and is one of the main things that drives people away from running Digimon World 3. To have a fighting chance at even beating the game, runners need to grind Tuskmon fights at Plug Cape. This is one of the spots where Guilmon has an insane advantage over Kodomon. Guilmon has the attack called Picking Claw, which has a chance to steal items at their drop rate with a modifier based on character speed versus enemy speed. This can be done multiple times in a fight as long as the enemy is alive. As for Kodomon, you have to bank on the drop happening at the end of an encounter, and with these fights taking at least 30 seconds to resolve, plus the amount of time it takes to actually trigger the encounter, multiple failures means a reset. Dessa got a counter crest drop after the 7th try in his record, so it was just good enough to keep the run alive.
Or using tusks or whatever.
We got it! This one is alive! John, you were right! It was 7th try! Oh, let's go!
For H.Dot, it only took him just over 2 minutes to get his counter crest.
Okay.
Once runners reach the west sector, they go to Byakko City to fight the fake Byakko leader, which is a very simple fight. Shortly after this comes the real Byakko leader hiding out at the Mirage Tower, and his fight is a little bit more complex. His last Digimon is Mamemon, a Digimon that can freeze you with the normal attack. The freeze status prevents you from taking any actions, allowing the opponent to clobber you to death before you can even do anything. This fight also shows how important the counter crest starts to be, with both routes doing a ton of damage when countering. In Dessa's run, he gets extremely lucky, only losing time due to encounters before the leader fight and also not getting frozen from Mamemon. After beating the Byakko leader, the next section is the Dum Dum Factory to chase down the Numemon that led you to the real Byakko leader. The boss of this area is Hyandromon, whose fight is thankfully simple, as long as your counters don't miss. The next boss, Warumanzemon, is similar in terms of how quick it is, but it can waste time if it uses Heartbreak Attack, which decreases strength and can't be countered. Once you reach Lucky Mouse's hideout, the game gives a massive lore dump about the AOA, all before they turn Lucky Mouse, or Kurt in this case, into an Oink mod and kidnaps Teddy. Ultimately, this leads you to having to go back to Asuka City to confront the Game Master, but you find out you're locked out of the main gate, so you have to go to the city's control room to let yourself in. However, there's a Datamon that manages the control panel, and you need to fight him before he'll help you get into the city. Unfortunately, this ends up requiring another detour after the fight since you need a staff pass to have Datamon open the gate. This is also one of the game's several obscure event triggers, as you need to talk to Datamon twice for the quest flag to set for the staff pass. This backtrack has you going back to the Dum Dum factory to find out where a staff pass could be, then using a dive spot in Suzaku City to reach the underground lake and trigger an event with Keith and Nick, who get you the staff pass. After the next backtrack to Asuka City from Kurt's hideout, Datamon lets you into the admin center basement, which begins the gauntlet of fights leading up to the Game Master. These fights aren't exactly challenging, but they are time consuming. Again, the only risks these fights have, like any do at this point, are if the enemies get a crit and one-hit KO your main Digimon. This is easily solved by using life discs to revive all party members, but in Dessa's run, he forgot to buy more in Suzaku City when getting the staff pass, so he had to waste a bit of time going into the shop in Asuka City after getting to the main floor of the admin center, and after this and a couple more fights, he was able to reach the Game Master. The Game Master is a fight that starts off pretty easy, with both routes buffing up Digimon and using the Death Plug glitch to maintain those buffs. However, Game Master's last Digimon can waste a lot of time. Persiamon has an ability called Helter Skelter, which will de-digivolve your active Digimon if it's not already in its rookie form. This is not good, as you lose access to your evolution-specific moveset and increased stats. Persiamon also has a 4-hit regular attack, which has amazing potential for a counter if all the attacks hit. But because Persiamon is level 38, has 516 speed and 645 wisdom, Dessa only has a 64% chance to land a regular attack and around a 74% chance to land a counter with his current stats. In H.Dot's Guilmon run, he had a slight advantage in speed, so his attack and counter success rate would be slightly higher. Dessa had a pretty good fight, only getting crit by Persiamon once, saving him a couple minutes against his last run. He also got a Metal Power 2 drop, a strong elemental power equip that gives him that element on the regular attack. This is a 6.25% chance to drop from the blue Minotaurumon, so getting this from the boss fight is insane luck and it will help for the upcoming fights. For example, Dolphmon and the Seabed passages give a lot of EXP, but normally take 2 hits to KO. With some elemental powers, such as Metal Power 2, you can one-shot these Digimon, saving a ton of time while grinding out your levels. Yukimon has to hit level 70 as soon as possible to get Blade Twister, so any time saved on random encounters while still getting experience is huge. Now that we're just over the halfway point of the run, feel free to go down to the comments section and let me know if you learned anything so far. It would really help me out. Now, it's time to head to the Amaterasu server to start fighting the AOA chiefs, which requires a backtrack to Byakko City for an event trigger, then another one to Suzaku City before going to the Jungle Shrine. At the bottom of the shrine is the entrance to the Bug Maze, an area created due to Bulbmon tearing holes between the server networks. This area is also where you fight Bulbmon for a second time, which can be annoying since it tends to evade attacks fairly often. It can also increase its speed, making it harder to hit as the fight goes on. Overall, it's not a complex fight, just one that can cause time loss if it wants. When runners reach the Amaterasu server, they immediately run to Kinglong City to fight the Kinglong Chief. Like many of the other bosses, the first 2 Digimon are not that notable and are just used to set up buffs, but the last Digimon, Chimeramon, can cause a lot of problems. Its regular attack will inflict sleep if it hits, keeping you from attacking or using abilities, but you can still use items to keep yourself alive during this state. Being put to sleep also means you can't counterattack, so you have to rely on getting good damage with your abilities to win. The Guilmon route has a bit of an advantage here since Metal Mamemon has a very strong attack called Energetic Bomb at this point, 2-shotting Chimeramon compared to Kyukimon 3-shotting him with Burn Slash. Next up is the Zoo Q Chief, which is a surprisingly chill fight compared to the last couple bosses. Honestly, there's nothing to note here since the only thing that could go wrong is a bad crit, and that didn't happen to Dessa. Another big reason for being in Zukyu City is to actually get the Digi-egg of Knowledge, which lets you use Digimon. That allows you access to the circuit board, letting you travel from server to server. It's also much faster to use this for travel than the Seabed, but slightly more dangerous due to the stronger enemies. With this new Digimon in hand, runners can now travel to Genbu City and fight the Genbu leader, But first, they need to make a detour to the Amaterasu Mirage Tower. This is currently the only major event skip in the run, which involves talking to leader Chuck early in order to skip some scenes that take a few minutes to resolve. Just like Datamon though, you can't forget to talk to him twice to progress the plot. In Deza's run, he fights a Griffinmon on the way to the tower and gets a Wind Power S drop, which has a 3.125% chance to happen.
The thing is,
This is the best elemental power equip in the game, and getting it in a run ensures a ton of time save in the late game. Finally, it's time for the Gimbu leader, and this is a weird fight because his strongest Digimon is Vikemon, who comes out first. Runners usually have to guard plug here so they don't get one-shot, but overall the fight is quick as long as no crits happen. Kyukimon was KO'd in Desa's run due to him playing risky and going for the kill to end the fight, but he didn't have enough strength to follow through. Still, the only penalty was time loss, which was more than expected at this point. After getting the 4 leader badges from the Asuka server, you can head towards the elemental dungeons inside the Kulon pit. These are the Ice Dungeon with the Ice Witch, the Fire Dungeon with the Fire Knight, and the Dark Dungeon with the Dark Knight. Each dungeon is only one room and has a small puzzle to solve before fighting each boss. Deza actually gets Blade Twister right before the first dungeon, making these fights a bit easier and giving him the last ability he needs to scale for the late game. All 3 bosses don't have too much to them except for potentially causing time loss. For the Kodomon route, as long as Blade Twisters hit and runners keep their health up, the fights aren't too bad. For Guilmon, you can just energetic bomb everything, and as long as it hits, a lot of these enemies get one shot. After this is the first actual break of the run. You get a free 3 minutes when the game sends you to the Magasta base, since you can't do much there anyways. Some runners opt to grab a couple items around the base, but they're not needed since money is no longer an issue at this point. After a much needed break, runners have to backtrack to Asuka City in order to progress the story, and get the president of Megami to stop the Destromon that's about to attack the real world. To get into Amaterasu City, you need the rest of the ID passes from the AOA chiefs, so it's off to Baihu City to fight the next one. The only real danger in this fight is Griffinmon potentially using Sylph Storm, a strong wind element attack that deals over half your health and damage. Desa kept getting messed with by the chief whenever he decided to keep switching out Digimon, wasting some time and keeping Griffinmon alive as long as he could. He still had good encounter luck on the way to the boss, and ended up pulling ahead of the previous record at this point because of it. The last chief is the Zhuanwu chief, and honestly it's just counter strats until you win. Runners for both routes need to use a guard plug or two since Boltmon and Puppetmon will one-shot you without it. With the final ID pass in hand, runners can access Amaterasu City to take on the Megami president, and after doing some final equipment prep, runners now have to deal with another gauntlet while storming the admin center. This gauntlet is similar to the Game Master one, lots of counters and healing are the strategy here, and that keeps things going until the president fight. The Megami president has a couple Digimon that can be annoying, but the main one is Raidenmon. It has a very strong basic attack that includes metal power and will take you down to low health. He can also counter attacks, and you usually can't one-shot him with your own counter. Well, except for Deza's and H-Dot's runs where they both do exactly that from a counter.
it's calculated to... One shot! Let's go, Wind Power S!
Nice.
Oh.
With that fight out of the way, there's one more section of backtracking to Asuka City and back to Amaterasu City to finish the final area of the game. The entity named Lord Megadeath, who actually runs the AOA, is planning on using the Venmon to merge with the military satellite called Gunslinger so he can create the strongest Digimon and rule the world. We chase him into the satellite while going through the puzzles and fighting some mini-bosses on the way. One funny thing is near the control room, you get into a scripted encounter with the Armageddonmon, which appears to be a mini-boss fight, but you can run away from it. Now, we're at the final bosses of the game. First is Lord Megadeath, and every single one of his Digimon can ruin your day. Fujinmon is first, and it's the one that runners need to set up on since it's the least dangerous. Next is Suzaku, who has a 4-hit attack with metal power infused in it. These attacks deal insane damage, meaning if at least 3 hit you, your Digimon will certainly be KO'd. These can be countered, so Suzaku can be beaten fast as long as your Digimon doesn't dodge all the attacks. Lastly, there's Raijinmon, who doesn't use physical attacks at all. This strictly relies on abilities like Blade Twister and Energetic Bomb to do the job, and as long as they hit the target, there shouldn't be any more issues besides the fight being kinda long. Dessa's boss fight was extremely good, with him hitting nearly all of his Blade Twisters, getting no unintended deaths, and ending up only 13 seconds off from his best split ever. The last boss appears as a result of Snatchmon merging with the Gunslinger satellite, turning him into Galacticmon. Galacticmon has 3 phases, 2 of which you actually fight. Phase 1 is used to set up a huge amount of buffs through power plugs and speed plugs, and taking a KO to make them last for the remainder of the fight. One special thing to note is that when Galacticmon switches to Phase 3, it'll try to learn the last ability used against it. In Dessa's case, it would have been Heat Cutter. For H. It would have been Metal Attack. Once Phase 1 is done, Phase 2 starts and attacks, sending you down to 1 HP, and that's literally it. Phase 3 shows up and copies the ability that was last used against it. Runners tried to make sure the copied ability is weak to ensure survivability. Phase 3 Galacticmon has its own slew of problems, with the main one being that it's hard-coded to evade 33% of attacks regardless of the regular formula. If he evades, he'll counter with a strong attack and then follow up immediately with the learned ability. In order to beat Galacticmon in a timely manner, you have to hit the boss 3 times successfully to remove its damage reduction mechanic, stunning the boss for 3 turns. This is where Kyukimon shines with Blade Twister, since you get 3 opportunities to hit the boss and not miss. If you do miss all attacks, the damage phase ends and you get countered by Galacticmon. This fight is very brutal, with time loss potentially going into the tens of minutes if you're unlucky. The Guilmon route especially has trouble here, since he doesn't have any multi-hit attacks in his arsenal. Energetic Bomb can do a ton of damage if it hits Galacticmon while it's weak, so it's honestly a high-risk, high-reward strategy with the Guilmon route. Runs can die at this point, especially if Galacticmon gets multiple turns in a row somehow, or if you run out of healing items to use. Runs are not truly done until that last successful hit on Galacticmon.
Come on. Come on, at least one.
Kotamon, guys! It's on Kotamon!
Dessa got an insane Galacticmon fight, beating it in just over 8 minutes and only getting 1 counter in Phase 3. It's hard to compare fights between routes since so many things can affect a Galacticmon fight, but H.'s former record got a 12.5 minute fight in the Guilmon route. Most of his time was spent on Phase 3, missing many of his attacks on the boss and getting punished every time. H. was on pace to get at least a 634 or better, but he only ended up being 20 seconds ahead of the last record. Looking back at the run overall, Kotamon and Guilmon both have certain strengths at different parts of the game. Guilmon gets to his ultimate Digivolution faster than Kotamon. He can also steal items, giving Guilmon runs a much higher chance of continuing after the counter crest grind. While Kotamon runs rely a lot more on luck, their endgame once they get Kyukimon and Blade Twister is unmatched. The 3-hit combo gives a higher chance at dealing any damage compared to Guilmon's 1-hit attacks. This is essential for getting a faster Galacticmon fight, resulting in less counters during the fight for the Kotamon route on average. Because of the strengths and weaknesses of each main route, runners still don't have a clear answer for who is the best Digimon. Digimon World 3 is a nightmare for speedrunners. Between the ridiculous luck required to complete a run, the lack of breaks, insane backtracking, and obscure plot triggers, the game is extremely unforgiving. Having a run that can die at any time is brutal, and it's understandable that Dessa's record is still standing to this day. There are others working on improving it, such as Marquisha, who was one of the people who unearthed a lot of technical information about the game for the community. Other than grinding out a lucky run, if someone could find a way to skip event triggers without the game soft locking, or manipulate random events consistently, that would change the landscape of Digimon World 3 speedruns forever with insane time save. If you enjoyed the runs I showed off today, please go check out their channels and subscribe to them. Also, I'd like to thank the Rixer for giving me the idea for this video. He's one of the earlier runners for this game, and held the 80% record using Kodamon in the past. He also tells a lot of cool speedrunning stories on his channel, so please give his videos a watch. I've left links to resources in the showcased runs in the description. Stay hydrated, folks, and thank you all so much for watching.